All right, guys, we are live on YouTube. Those of you who want to watch it there, please feel free to go and do so. So just a bit of administrative here in the beginning. So we get that out of the way. What is the way we are going to do this workshop? This workshop has three parts. The first part is the fundamentals of deep learning. Um, the second part and the third part they are deep dives into the subject. Well, it's sort of a pun on the word, I guess. Deep learning, it sounds very exciting, but so it is. So each part is 6 weeks. Now, that means that by the time you're done with the entire workshop, it will be 4.5 months. Because we have the holiday season, the Thanksgiving and the Christmas, my guess is we'll lose a couple of weeks in between where it wouldn't be wise to hold classes because those would be the days of holidays. So let's add 2 more weeks to it. And so this is all put together a 5-month workshop. The way we'll hold this workshop is Monday, we will have the theory session. This is where we'll learn the concepts. On Wednesday, we'll apply what we have learned in lab. We'll do some code experimentations. We'll build some AI models, and we'll learn to use that knowledge. Then we will have a weekly quiz. Every week, in the early part of the week, right after the lecture, that is on Tuesday at some point, I will release a quiz on the topics we learned on Monday. Now, you can take the quiz anytime before Saturday. Now, some people, they can be satisfied by the moment you finish the quiz, it will give you a feedback. It will tell you the correct answers to the problems, to those questions. If you want a bit more discussion, every Saturday at noon, there will be an interactive discussion on the quiz. There is an optional thing, and that Saturday afternoon is not at all mandatory. If you finish the quiz, you have done well, and you pretty much understood what the solutions were, you don't have to come to the Saturday noon class. There is also optional research paper reading every week. So as we make progress in these 5 months, I am hoping that we will cover a sum total of about 20 research papers, which have been foundational to the field of artificial intelligence. So the purpose of that is to understand how these breakthroughs have been coming historically. These are classic papers starting with 2014 and moving forward from there. And so much of the concepts that you will learn, I will explain it to you, and that should be enough to give you the background then for us to do the research paper reading. Research paper reading is completely optional. Those of you who are new to this, you can skip it entirely. It is not really meant to be for those people who are just entering the field. So those are the four things: 1 day of theory, 1 day of lab, a weekly quiz. We will have then a research paper reading, and there will be projects. In these 5 months, you will do at least 3 projects, one in each part. These projects you'll do as a group because projects take time. They are meant to give you real world experience, make you good at it. You will go through the entire range of emotions, in the beginning feeling lost, and then getting some help, and then making progress, and then feeling good about it. I often call it in mythology, um, Campbell, a great mythologist, he called it the hero's journey. Whenever you embark on a difficult goal, you go through certain phases, and those phases are part of the hero's journey. And I invite you guys to go look up that term, the hero's journey. It's a cycle in which you start out with a good intention, as all of you have done. We want to learn artificial intelligence. Yes, we do, but it's not easy. It is an interesting topic, but it's a vast subject. And how vast it is, people don't realize till they come to it. And then they realize that it's an ocean of learning here. And that's when the going gets tough. What Campbell would call being in the belly of the beast. You feel rather unup to the challenge gradually, but then there's somebody to guide you, which I hope is all of us as a community helping each other. We will move forward with that. We'll struggle through, and finally, the as the hero's journey says, the hero, of course, comes out victorious. You would have conquered this field, and when I say that, I genuinely mean it. If you put in the effort that we are going to do in this 5 months, irrespective of your background, whether you are an engineer, a psychologist, a physicist, an economist, a historian, you will end at the same destination, and you will feel very confident about your knowledge. And that is a very tall claim, and I should back it up with some amount of evidence. So, in that evidence, and this is perhaps the last time I'll talk about it, this motivational stuff, there is such a concept of in cognition, in understanding how people learn. People have identified phases, different phases of learning or experience. And one of the books that was written on this aspect was a very famous book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. Some of you may have read it. The essence of that is it takes 10,000 hours to become the a world-class genius at any topic. You put in those 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, means doing that which is hard for you, not doing what is easy for you, then you're guaranteed to reach a world-class genius level. 10,000 hours is a tall order for us. We live professional, busy lives. What can we put in? So I have been teaching now for 30 years, and over 30 years, you observe people, you see how people learn about subjects. I will dwell for 2, 3 minutes on that, and that would be the end of that. I've noticed that the first 100 hours, people have what we call the imposter syndrome. In this, you always feel that you don't belong to this field. It's too hard. Everybody else in the uh, group, all your batchmates, all your classmates are way smarter than you, and you can't make it. This is very natural human response. In fact, if you did not have this response, then you're probably rather dull. Most bright people have the first response is imposter syndrome. Somebody did a survey at Google and MIT, and they found that when people enter MIT, 95% of the people are sure that they have gotten in by mistake and they don't belong there amongst the geniuses. And I'm told that in Google also, employees, when they join, they have a similar feeling, or they used to when Google was highly competitive and selective. I don't know how it is today. So imposter syndrome is normal. It takes about 100 hours, in my observation, when people go through the workshops here at Support Vectors. This is the time when you'll feel like quitting. This is the time when you'll feel it's all very hard. I would very much encourage you to persist, continue on. And remember, we are here as a community. You can reach me through multiple channels, my phone, through Slack, through email, and so forth. There is a teaching staff here. They are teaching assistants. Prachi, I will introduce you to her. She's here in the audience. And Dennis Shen, both of them are here. There are also a few volunteer teaching assistants from amongst the students. And I encourage many more of you to join the teaching assistants pool. You learn a lot when you help others. And so the way we'll move forward in this workshop is we will help each other, encourage each other. In learning theories, we call it forming learning communities. When you form communities and move together, it's much better. It's like going for walks in your neighborhood. If you form your own walking group, you can persist day after day much more than if you did it on your own. So that applies to learning. Learning has, in our way, it will have a few pillars. One will be the theory, the sessions that we will go through in this workshop. The other would be the guided labs in which I take you through the labs. But then there would be labs that you have to do on your own and the projects that you have to do. These you should do in your learning communities. One reason I ask you to do the psychological survey, which is important, I hope you all finish it. If you haven't, please do so in the break. It will help me identify and you to understand. You can see the results. I don't have to. It will help you understand who you should team up with. It is surprising how well collaboration works if you team up with like minded people. Right? And That survey will help you do that. So do please take part in it as soon as you can. Form your learning community, form the small group. Now remember, the entire class is a learning community, but at the same time, you can have your own study group, the 3 4 people that you can engage very closely with and do the projects together with. Generally, it is advisable to pick people of your similar background to you. If you are a novice, pick novices. Don't pick somebody strong, because that person will do all the work and you won't learn anything. So pick somebody at your own level. That comes through talking, and that brings us to the collaboration part. You will notice that in the course webpage, there are discussion groups, there is a chat. And the way to get most out of this workshop is to stay engaged. People often say that the bigger part of success is just showing up. It's certainly true in learning. If you stay engaged, if you just show up, you are far more likely to succeed in this, what will be a long and interesting journey that we are embarking on. And we have been through, I've been doing this for 30 years. I can assure you, I know the background of each one of you before you registered. And each one of you are capable of it. Otherwise, I would not have advised you to register for this workshop. So have that confidence. Once you cross 100 hours, your confidence level will, you'll go through an inflection point at which your confidence level will begin to go up quite significantly. By the time you hit 200 hours, you not only will be confident, others will see that you're good in this field and they will start taking your help. So one of the questions people ask is, when will I get there? It's sort of, it reminds me of, we all as kids have asked our parents, are we there yet, when we sit in the car, in the back of a car or stuff? Or in India, it used to be the trains. When will we get there? That's a universal human condition. We all want to know, when will I get there to the goal? And so usually it's hard to answer, but with years of experience, I can quantify it for you in number of hours. You accumulate 200 hours and you are there. I mean it. Now, 200 hours can be accumulated in many ways. Those of you who are very busy professionals will have harder time. You'll probably put in, perhaps in a week, 5 hours of study. Uh, that also would be maybe a stretch, 1 hour a day outside the classroom. But when you couple that with the sessions, the 3 hour sessions each, you are accumulating a lot of hours. You're accumulating 10 hours a week, which means that 40 hours. 40 hours means in 5 months, you would have reached 200 hours, which is about the time when this workshop would finish. That's the duration of this workshop. Those of you who have more time, are more motivated, you will get there sooner. You'll find that before long, you're helping other people in the classroom. You are writing blogs, you're joining Kaggle competitions. And those are the goals I will take you through. Those are the phases of our learning. At some point, you will actually write an article that you will post to Medium, towards data science. And perhaps you have not done that before. If you have done that, you have some experience at it. If you have not done that, we are all there to take you to your first published article. We are there to take you through your Kaggle, taking one of the Kaggle competitions, trying out the data set and submitting, and trying to be in the top 1%. First, try to be in the top 25%, then top 10%, and then top 1%. And if you're really dedicated, making it to the leaderboard of top 10. So we will go through all those phases of the journey. That's part of the fun here. Are we together, guys? Be mentally prepared for that. So what does it take for us to get there? We just be there, engage with everything, and that's all that is needed. Then I hope all of you have registered for the educational portal. If you have not, let me know in the break, and I will make sure that you get in, you're able and get engaged. As you make progress with this workshop, I have slightly gamified it. There are little milestones to achieve. When you achieve certain milestones, you will earn badges. Those badges are badges of getting started, sufficiently started, badges of achieving a novice level, badges of making good progress, badges of, and so on and so forth, and ultimately a badge of completion. Needless to say, you will complete. I will give you a certificate of completion, but there is more to that. If you do your projects well and all your labs well, and that's a big if, assuming that you can do all of that, I will give you directly, I will write an endorsement for you on your LinkedIn, and I will be willing to be your job reference. Conditional that you do become good and that you become, that you finish all the projects. Now, why would that matter? Let me put it this way. Anybody applying to graduate school so far has not, in my knowledge, not gotten in to the graduate school in who did not, I mean, who got my recommendation. I have a perfect score there, right? And I'm not talking of B grade universities. I'm talking about top tier universities, Stanford, MIT, Berkeley, Urbana-Champaign. I graduated from Urbana-Champaign. So for the younger ones amongst you, if that's a motivation, do keep that in mind. I will tell you some success stories of the last batch that graduated, and I hope that is some motivation for you. In just the previous batch that we produced, we had one person getting into UIUC, one graduate school, one for the Graduate School of University of Washington, Seattle. A few got into Apple. One person got into Walmart AI Lab, and now in a very senior researcher. One got into Facebook, and these were the ones who wanted to change jobs, and they told me that they have changed. I do not know about other people, and there are a lot of people who come here because they want to bring AI into their current workplace. So there are two ways. You go to AI, you go find a job which uses AI, or you incorporate AI in your workplace. From Support Vectors, we have had some significant successes. We have had people who have done their own startup. They have been experts of different fields, for example, wireless area, and they have been deeply experienced. They are CEOs and founders, and they have successfully gone on to sell their companies for massive amounts of money. One person at this moment has started AI, was in the database area, changed into AI, started a company. And the last I talked to him, which was 2 years ago, just got a major retailer as one of his uh, clients. And at this moment has revenue streams in 8 digits. So what you get out of this workshop from this place, from Support Vectors, depends on how much effort you're willing to put in. But one thing you can be assured of, we are there for you. The TAs are there, I am there, and we will help you move forward if you reach out to us and ask for help. So please do that. Right? So, and speaking of doing that, do take the homeworks given to you every week and the quizzes and so forth. Now, there is a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/support vectors. Everything that I say here is being live broadcast at this moment to that channel. After the lecture is over, that recording will not stay public. It will become an unlisted YouTube video. I will post the link into the classroom portal, into the educational portal. So you will have to come to the educational portal to see the link to that, and then visit that. So remember that all the recordings are there. Use that to review this. Now, one more thing. Part of these workshops is a condition that many people don't realize. It is designed for adults. Now, when you do adult education, it's slightly different from teaching school children or college kids. School kids and college kids are not terribly interested in the subject. Some are, but many of them are not. So you use a carrot and stick principle. You scare them by bad grades with bad grades, or you hang on some rewards, some scholarships, some things to encourage them. So with carrot and stick, you take them forward. So they have all the time, but usually the youth has its distractions. With adult education, it's slightly different. Adults, when they come to a workshop like this, they are highly committed. Almost all of you must have tried taking courses, let's say in Coursera or some of these things. You register for those courses. If I were to ask you how many courses you finished, you would give a bit of an embarrassed answer that not many. The dropout rate from those things are in the high 90s. And there is a reason for it, in my view. Adults have all the good intentions of learning. They know the value of learning, but they have no time. They have families to raise, jobs to hold on to and bring bread home, right? And and there is a social life. They lead more complicated lives, parents to take care of, and so forth. So as such, time is at a premium and they don't get time. So this place, support vectors, is designed specifically for as an educational methodology for busy professionals. Here, we focus on two things. You take a workshop, we expect that you'll miss a few sessions, which is why to catch up, reach out to us. We will sit with you and help you catch up. All the recordings are there. You can use that to catch up. Reach out to your learning community. They will help you out. Reach out to the teaching assistants. They'll help you out. But above all things, once you have registered for a workshop, all subsequent repetitions are free. So for example, you're taking it now. We will be offering this workshop again in summer of 2021. When we offer this workshop, you're most welcome to join it for free. Even if you haven't missed anything, a lot of people prefer, like for example, in the audience today, I see a lot of familiar faces who have been taking almost every workshop at least two times. And the reason they do this is because repetition helps knowledge settle in deeper. You learn more the second time than you learn the first time. The first time you're just becoming familiar with the material, you sort of understand it. The second time it does get deep and you gain confidence. So remember, you're free to repeat these workshops as many times as you wish. So with these preliminaries, I'll sort of run through the rest of the administrative year. Speaking of textbooks, there are three textbooks in the course webpage. Purchase the main textbook. Now that main textbook is a little bit intimidating for some, so do not read a chapter till we have covered it in our lectures. That is, it might feel a little hard. Wait for the lecture session to be over, and then I'll tell you which sections to go and review. And you can do that. Those of you who have strong background in engineering, especially in you remember your mathematics, by all means go ahead and read that book. That book is written by the great people. These are big figures in deep learning community, great scientists. And so you're learning, what is the phrase, straight from the horse's mouth. That is the deep learning textbook. Now, the other two textbooks that I mentioned are practical lab textbooks. They both are on PyTorch. We will be doing our labs predominantly in PyTorch, which is a deep learning library, and secondarily using TensorFlow and Keras. But if time is limited, we'll always default to PyTorch. The reason is PyTorch is the favored framework in the research communities. And increasingly, at this moment, the world is split between TensorFlow and PyTorch, though the momentum seems to be gradually moving towards PyTorch. Some of you would remember that I used to give this workshop in TensorFlow and Keras in the past, but now we will we will give primary focus to PyTorch, and we will still have TensorFlow and Keras, but that will be aspirational. Those will be for students who are willing to try out both of the libraries. And so for them, okay? That is about the textbooks and the libraries. Roughly speaking, what is your development environment? It is this. We will do all our labs in Google Cloud. Right? Now, if you're very familiar with Amazon Cloud or some other cloud, or you're not familiar with any cloud at all, that is perfectly okay. Uh, Google Cloud, the part that we use is very small and it doesn't take long to learn. We will use in particular a tool called Colab or Colaboratory in Google. We don't worry about these words because on Wednesday we'll go through the lab sessions. So we'll go through guided exercises in which those of you who are new to this will set up our accounts and we'll do our first labs in Google Cloud, in Google Colab. Now, Google Colab has a paid version, which is fairly inexpensive. It's $10 a month. If you are a college student, you probably get that the Colab Pro version free. If you are not, then I highly encourage you, and most of you are not college students in this audience. I would encourage you to put that $10 a month. 5 months would come to $50. It is an investment worth putting in. The reason is when you take the Google Colab Pro, you get better, more powerful instances. Your code runs faster, and time is of the essence for professionals. You don't want to sit there um, sipping your coffee while your code runs. And the deep learning code are notoriously slow. We are dealing with matrices which are humongous. We are talking about those of you who have attended my ML100 and 200 would remember that we used to do our regression and classification with what, 10, 20, 50 parameters. Right? Here in deep learning, we are talking about building models which don't have 10, 20, or 50 parameters. We are looking at a parameter space that is absolutely ginormous. We are looking at a parameter space of 100 million parameters, 500 million parameters. And now we are talking of billions of parameters now. The state of the art keeps moving forward. And the one thing that is remains always true, the models keep becoming bigger and bigger. So you cannot be doing matrix multiplications of these ginormous matrices on puny hardware. You, you do need good hardware. So, and it is worth paying that extra $10. It doesn't give you too much of an improvement, but the improvement is noticeable. So take that Colab Pro. Once you reach a place in these labs where Colab Pro proves insufficient, things run very slowly, you can move on to Jupyter notebooks in the cloud. There you can decide how much hardware you need. I would suggest use modest amounts, use the minimum till you feel the need. And again, if you run your Jupyter notebooks, remember they are running on compute instances. Remember to shut them down when you sleep. If you don't shut them down, next morning you'll wake up to a nasty surprise. You'll have quite a bill, cloud bill to look at. So if you can be careful, you might want to go with Jupyter notebooks. There are trade-offs between starting with Google Colab and Jupyter notebooks and cloud directly. Colab, the downside is you have to remember to commit your code back to your GitHub or to your Git account. I would encourage keep your code in GitHub. So, and pull it in Colab. That way, you can keep committing it back. You don't have to lose it. Colab instances disappear after 24 hours. But Jupyter instances stay. When you take a Jupyter instance, it's a compute instance. Even when you shut it down, your code remains, your notebooks remain there. So you don't have to worry about continuously committing it to GitHub. Committing it to GitHub is a good idea anyway, and you should do that. But if you forget, you don't lose your work. But if you forget to passivate or shut down that instance, you do rake up a bill, which is why in the beginning, till you get into good habits of shutting down the machine when you go to sleep, I try to use small instances so that even if you forget, you don't rake up a large bill. At most, you have a $30 bill per year, per month, right? Or something like that. So that's the trade off between Google Colab and Google's Jupyter notebooks. And we will cover this in the lab section. And then one question that comes is, can I not do it locally? Can I not do it on my laptop and so forth? And the answer to that is, yes, you can, but here are the caveats. Deep learning needs engines that can do very fast matrix computations. Now, the general purpose CPU, central processing unit in machines, are not designed for floating point operations and massive matrix computations of this size. They do everything well enough, but they're not custom or sort of dedicated to this thing. So you need machines that have GPUs, video cards dedicated to this. And the only video cards that currently work with deep learning libraries is NVIDIA cards. This is unfortunate, but this is true. The AMD cards, the support for them is still coming. Hopefully it will come, so there is competition. At this moment, NVIDIA essentially has a monopoly. Their cards are wonderful, and they make, unfortunately, um, it does make a dent into your bank account. So if you're building your own machine, or if you're getting a laptop, you have to make sure that it has a NVIDIA graphic card. Those are the RTX series, or you must get those. If you can't get those, there is no point in wasting money on a laptop. You might as well do it in the cloud. Now, a question that often comes: can I not do it on the Mac? I have a Mac Pro, and people are very proud of their Mac Pros. Those are lovely machines, very, very, very intuitive and nice to use. Developers love them. The bad news is now you can't use your Macs and Mac Pros. The reason is they contain AMD based video cards. They don't contain NVIDIA, to my knowledge. So it won't run any faster than a simpler laptop because it doesn't contain the GPU that is supported by deep learning libraries. So that's a bummer there for those of you who are Mac enthusiasts. Now, some of you may say, I have a very new laptop. Maybe I can use that. If it has a discrete GPU, perhaps you can use it, and it may be faster and better than the cloud. And by all means, to it. There are a few companies that make dedicated hardware laptops for this purpose. When we do the lab, I'll walk you through, but today, just as a bit of detail, one of them, there is a Dell's Alienware Area 51 laptop. It's rather bulky. It's basically a workstation pretending to be a laptop. So you can imagine it's pretty bulky. It uses workstation grade CPU. Um, it has a lot of cooling fans and so forth, and it has a high end graphic card. The one on my desktop has 64 gigs of RAM. So these are beefy machines. They do work. Some people absolutely love these. If you want, you can get one of these. The other is, and which is, but these laptops are actually meant for gaming. So they have all sorts of blinking lights and whatnot, meant for teenagers, I suppose. But it does serve the purpose of deep learning. On the other hand, if you there is a company, there are a few companies actually, not one, but quite a few. The leading amongst them is a company called Lambda Labs. Lambda Labs makes a notebook called the Tensor Book. Tensor books are light, they are dedicated to deep learning, and so they contain a very good graphic card, as good as you can have in a laptop, but they don't try to be workstations in disguise. So Tensor books are very, very popular in the deep learning community. Almost everyone seems to have one. I have one. You may consider, if you prefer doing the labs locally, you may consider using that. Lastly, if you want to go all in, then obviously the Formula One race car equivalent of computer would be these big deep learning workstations. These workstations typically have two to four very powerful uh, compute engines built into them. They cost a lot. They typically start out at 10,000 and they can go all the way to about 40,000. I would suggest don't get into it early, but sooner or later you might as you get into this field and become good at it, and you start taking professional projects, consulting projects, and things like that, then time is money. And you may want to get one of these workshops. Good thing is these workshops last a long time. They are really made out of premium hardware. Easily you get 4 or 5 years of life out of it. And after, let's say, 4 years, there's much better hardware on the market. You upgrade, but you can still use these machines as general purpose computing for your emails and your watching movies and so on and so forth. So, and they are very upgradable. Now, everything that I said here today, it is there on the class portal. You will see that there is a section under labs in which it is setting up your development environment. And you would see that I have talked about all of this in detail. So you can read the review of it in written form. Next question that comes is, which IDE should I use? And which language are we going to use? In this workshop, the one necessary language is Python. All labs will always be done in Python. Some labs, optionally, I'll also release solutions in the R programming language. And a couple of labs occasionally will be in Java. In natural language processing, one of the topics we'll cover, we will use Java occasionally. Now, you don't have to use it. This is for those people who have the extra motivation to pick that up. So consider these things as extras. Now, Python, let's talk a little bit about Python. Python is a vast language. It's a sweet, simple language to start with. It's very easy to start. It is also a language that's a little bit hard to master because once you get started, you realize that actually there are a lot of interesting things in the world of Python. It's very powerful. And so it takes time to master all of that. In the course of the workshop, there'll be two things that will happen. I will be giving a few introduction to Python sessions. My experience has been that people who come and join these workshops, and if they don't know Python, they need to attend those remediation sessions, just 2 sessions. And after 2 sessions, they're fully up to speed. The reason for that is we don't need the vast, the scope of the Python language. We need only that subset which pertains to data science. And that subset of Python that is specific to data science, one can easily pick up in 2 days or 2 sessions. It's not hard at all. Right? The code that we will do, the lab work that we'll do, we will stick to simple Python so that we will not use exotic Python structures, simply just so that we are all on the same page and we can make progress together. So that is for Python. Those of you who have not or who enough Python background or who would like to join the Python sessions, please go to the portal's discussion section and just mention that you would like to join it. In the forum, put a note there and I will include you into the session that I'll be holding shortly over Python, quite likely over the coming weekend. So that's for the labs and so forth. Next, Moodle, a mobile app, I trust you all have installed on your iPads and your iPhones and your Androids and smartphones. If not, please do so. Past experience, people have found it very convenient. Well, these days we don't commute, we all stay at home, so the value is probably somewhat diluted, but people used to look at the course material while they would be sitting in BART and taking the ride, commute back home or to work and so forth. And they would be catching up with the course and the messages and the announcement on their cell phone. You can still do that, of course. Convenience is you don't have to carry a big laptop to bed. You could just be sitting in your bed or the sofa and be browsing the messages, taking the quiz, a weekly quiz on your cell phone or on your iPad. So for that reason, it's important that you install the mobile app onto your machine. I have sent you the instructions. If for any reason you have had difficulty, there will be TAs waiting in the break. Please take their help and they'll install it. I'll also be there if you have difficulty. I'll help you install it. Next, and two more points after this and the administrative year. The content of this course is,
Sudhir here. Sorry to interrupt you.
so there.
Uh, Regarding this ID, not sure you did mention anything because I
Sudhir, you're
heard
very
about.
faint. I can't hear you clearly.
Okay, how about now? Are you able to hear me?
Sort of. Go ahead.
Yeah. My question is around the ID. You just
Can't
mentioned.
hear you. Perhaps you can just put it on the chat and I'll try to read it.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, now you became clear. Go ahead.
Now, what I wanted to find out was, the IDE portion. You were mentioning about the language, but not sure if you touched about the IDE, which IDE will be using.
Which IDE will be using? Okay, yes. I talked about the hardware, the ID. Actually, this is maybe it is time that I showed that bit of content to all of you on the page. Let's see. Let me know, guys, when you see the course page. Are you seeing it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
So you see that hands-on labs in this. You'll see that there is a, yeah. So we use Jupyter and with the extension. So it explains that. We'll go over this in labs, Sudhir. So it will all become very clear. Start out with Jupyter notebooks. but add the extensions, or use, better still, just use the Collab Pro version of Collab. Then, as we write longer bits of code, there are two IDs that I recommend. One of them is PyCharm. The community edition is free. You can install the PyCharm, and I'll take you guys through I'll have extra sessions at some point over the weekend in which I will make you familiar with PyCharm if you're not familiar with it. And the other one is Eclipse PyDev. That also, I'll give a small session. Those of you who prefer that, I'll get you familiar with it. Which of the two should you choose? If you are familiar with Eclipse, then you can stay in your comfort zone. Just install the PyDev plugin. So you can have your Java projects and your Python projects all in the same space. And all your fingers, muscle memory of keyboard shortcuts will still apply. If you are not familiar with Eclipse, then I would suggest go with PyCharm. It's the easier of the two. The learning curve is much less. So go with PyCharm. So does that answer your question, Sudhir?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yes. So, guys, whatever I said today, you will see written in this page. And I will try always to make sure that everything I say is there in notes and is there in videos in some form or the other. Not everything will be in notes, but certainly the videos will be there. And important things will be there as notes also. So I will stop sharing my screen.
Asif, can you tell me the name of the textbook which you said? You said first textbook we should buy. Which is that?
Yes, why don't we go back to the course page? So if we go here, there is a section. By the way, let me give you guys a navigation to this. Guys, when you come to this portal, do all of you see this navigation bar? It's a little unusual. The navigation bar here is on the right. Most of us are used to
Yes,
navigation bars on the left.
we are
And
able to see
I'm
it.
coming to textbooks in a moment. One way to get it to the left is click this arrow, dock navigation bar. It will disappear. And so it will show up on your left only when you need it. Right? So we'll go to the textbook section. When you go to the textbook section, you see three textbooks, and I explain it here. This is the textbook for the theory. You must get it. This is also available online, guys. Huh? For those of you who want to just read it online, you can search for it. The contents are available online. But having a physical textbook is always helpful. Uh, get it. These guys are big guys in this field. Joshua Benji and Jan Goodfellow, etc. And Aaron, this. These are the big luminaries in the field of deep learning. So you're learning straight from the horse's mouth. That's a big thing. The downside is obviously they are researchers. So it is a little hard for them to come down to the level, our level, level of common people and write completely from the ground up. They make a very good effort. The explanations are very clear, but it assumes certain amount of background. My job is obviously to provide you with a background so you can read this book easily. So please do order this book immediately. There are these two other books, Deep Learning with PyTorch. This you can get just the e version of the book, ebook version from Manning website, and then it will show up on your Kindle. It will be there as a PDF in case you want to print it and so forth. Those of you, and these days the young generation likes to read on electronic devices. If you belong to that young generation, congratulations. Then you might want to just do that. If on the other hand you prefer, and this book is also freely available, by the way, you don't even have to buy it. That is something else. The authors have made it freely available. So just get the PDF and put it on your iPad or whatever it is. On the other hand, if you want a print copy of this book, you can buy it from Amazon. I've given you the link. This is a very good book. And we will be doing a few labs from this book. So it will really help you with your labs. The next book is, again, O'Reilly. Typically, O'Reilly and Manning, these two publishers compete in our space of computer science and writing textbooks for professionals. Again, a very good book, but you don't need both. You can pick one and buy that. Or one other thing you can do is maybe buy this, and because this is free, you can just download it. Though I would say that is, I mean, personally, I like people who make their books available for free, and I do make it a point to buy that in order to reward their effort. But uh, you may make your own decisions. So these are the three books we need. First one is absolutely necessary. Between the second and the third, uh, you can pick or get both. Are we together? So, speaking of which, guys, I would suggest that after this lecture is over, the session is over, do please go to the website and pour over the educational material. There is a lot of material here, and it will keep growing. And that's the next part I was going to talk about. We are going to trickle feed the content, which means that what you are seeing now, actually, what I am seeing is. More than what you are seeing. You will not see this entire list of topics. You will see only a limited list, which I have released. Every week, I'll release new material, and there's a lot of sections are hidden. I'll keep releasing those material. At this moment, I have not released it so that this page doesn't become extraordinarily long. But as we cover those topics, I'll be releasing those sections. But do keep your eye on that. That's the next thing. And finally, there's one more part of the administrative thing. What did I miss? The fee structure. This workshop is in three parts. You can register for, and obviously most of you have registered, but I know that some of you are sitting on fence and not able to decide whether to register only for one part or for all three parts. So each part of the three parts of this workshop is $1,000. If, on the other hand, you know that you are going to take the entire journey, you will learn all of it, then there is a discount for you. You can register for all three parts at one go, and then it is $2,400 for everything put together. So that's a $600 discount, a 20% discount on the workshops. That that fee structure would remind you of those of you who took the boot camp last year would remind you of that. This is bigger than the boot camp. That boot camp was only 3 months. Here we are going to go over 5 months. It's going to be a fun journey. So, folks, I am done with the administrative year, and I'll post these notes obviously in the class portal. The basic thing is I would like to take a break now, and then we'll start with the real material. Now, since this was all administrative here, what I will do is this particular video, I'm going to stop so that it becomes an independent video from the actual lecture session, which we will start after the break. So it is 7:55 on my watch. Let us all regroup at 10 past 8. Are we together, guys? And then we'll start the course in earnest.
Sounds good.